Welcome to Fitness Casual. We help you ditch diets and build habits no matter how busy you are, even in the summer. I'm Andrew Hayes, and with me is fierce and fearless Kat Best.
Hi, everyone.
What's your biggest fear? Is that too deep of a question? A fear? What do you think?
Me and the rest of the human population, it's public speaking is probably by far my biggest fear, for sure. I will do anything. I guess I have like fear, but I'm not really afraid of heights or like bugs or anything like that. But the idea of like getting in front of people and speaking is like absolutely horrid.
So interesting. You did just do a couple months ago at a very large company in New York City, and you crushed it. So that was really cool. That's so funny. I mean, I've seen you obviously on camera. You're on camera right now. I think you're great, but I totally understand it. That's really funny. I am afraid, this is partly a joke and partly serious, I am afraid of the garbage disposal.
Yes, putting your hand down there.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where like between kids and just like having stuff always in my sink cooking. I cook almost every day because I work from home. I'm always putting my hand down there to get something.
Yep.
And it's just like every time I put it down there, I'm like, there's no reason why it would turn on right now, but it could, you know? So it definitely
so valid.
If
I grew up with one,
that.
and that scared the shit out of me too. My dad would actually have me put my hand down there because they were small to like clear stuff out, and I just remember like, if just that switch is hit, oh man. I think a lot of people feel that when they're involved with a garbage disposal.
That is good. Yeah, if you also feel that way, please reach out. Please validate me, or you can make fun of me. I don't really care. Either one. We are going to talk about facing your fears today. We can, of course, extend this outside of fitness. This is something that Kat and I have done many times, that many people in our program have done many times, and you've probably done many times, but it can't hurt to have continued advice, especially when it comes to fitness, nutrition, or like general activities. It can be really intimidating, and I'm pretty scared of the ocean. I'm not a very good swimmer, and I've learned to scuba dive. That was like one of my biggest fear facing, and starting a company, you know, quitting my very cushy tech job to start a company was another one. Kat, you have a few as well, I'm sure. You want to run down the list, or
what of things I'm afraid of?
Of fears you've faced that you've maybe conquered or something like that.
Oh yeah. I think jujitsu is a big one. I had a lot of fear of like, body stuff, or like after that incident, I don't know if I've shared on the podcast, where I got like attacked in my apartment building. I had legit fear of like people and bodies being close to me, and so getting over that by just like doing jujitsu and working with people, bigger people, getting smushed and whatever, and just getting through that was definitely a fear. I'm fear of injury for sure. I have issues from dislocating my shoulder so many times. I really get freaked out by doing certain things, but I do them. Like I could have never worked out again, never done jujitsu again, but I choose to keep doing the things that put my shoulder in a risky spot, but I get through it, and it helps me build confidence. I'm afraid of posting on Instagram every day. I am like just anything that involves being super vulnerable. There's definitely a fear component there, but I'm not a risky person, and I think that's one I don't face necessarily, is taking a lot of risks.
Okay.
Especially as far as like money stuff goes, that's one I'm not that good at, but working with you in the business has definitely helped big time, of like taking more risks and seeing the reward there.
That's right. Yeah. As of this recording, we have yet to really pull money out of the business. We just continue to let it ride. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. This might be the last podcast episode ever. Maybe we'll be asking for quarters on the street soon, or maybe we'll be doing well. We'll find out. But this is really important. I know this episode seems maybe tangential to your fitness and nutrition journey, and you're probably like, but how many calories am I supposed to eat? And honestly, this is more important than that, and we're going to cover a little bit of that, but you need to understand how to acknowledge your fears and how to move forward, because you might just be afraid of carbs or something along those lines, and until you can actually face that, you'll never eat the right macros. And this is why when you request a macro calculation from us, you're going to get 15 questions first. So many people are always like, I didn't think a human was actually going to reach out. I thought I was just going to get a number. It's like, nope, you can get numbers all day long, but until you know how to face your fears and actually execute, you won't see the results you want. So Kat, you want to start us off?
Yes, for sure. Okay, so the first one I think is by far most important, is you have to acknowledge the fear. You cannot ignore it, because if you repress it, it's going to come out in some other way, shape, or form. But if you figure out what it is you're exactly afraid of and give it a name, write it down, like identify that fear, now you can work with it. fears feel humongous when you don't know what they are or when it's not defined. It can feel like a big looming thing over you, but if you're just like, oh, I'm afraid of public speaking, that's what this is. Super easy to now work with that because you know exactly what it is. And I think we always need to be self-reflective and understand what this fear comes from. You know, you don't need to do a giant therapy session with yourself, but a lot of this comes from our childhood or some moment in time that made you really stressed or afraid or created a stimulus in your body. It just opened up a new pathway in your brain to create a new fear. So that's one thing I want everyone to think about, is just try to figure out what the root of that is. Some people are just born with certain fears, but there's like some sort of incident. And that also allows you to like get a little bit of power back because you now can figure out what to do. You know, so a good example is people are afraid of going to the gym. I hear that a lot, and now I know no one's actually afraid of a big room full of machines and weights. No one is scared of that. Right? Imagine if it's an empty gym. Are you now as scared? Probably not. But what you're really afraid of is feeling stupid in front of other people who maybe look like they know what they're doing more than you. You're afraid of putting on your tight gym clothes that you haven't tried on in 5 years. You're afraid you're going to hurt yourself and get injured. And then if you know what those are, right, those are 3 completely different fears, but someone would just be like, I'm afraid of going to the gym. But if you can unpack why it is, now we can work with it and come up with a strategy. So this is, you know, really helpful. And I think even better if you write it down. I know it sounds corny, but doing this stuff in your head is a little bit harder. But if you write it down or journal or whatever, it can be really helpful to come up with something you can really strategize with. And on that, I want you to visualize the outcome of the fear, or whatever it is that could happen in relation to what you're scared of. If you visualize a outcome, especially a positive one, it will actually activate the same areas of your brain as the actual experience does. This is unbelievable stuff that our brains are capable of doing. This is also huge in sports. If people do it in their head, then you could be better at it in practice, which is crazy because you're not physically doing anything. But, you know, I do this a lot in like martial arts. You just kind of like go through moves in your head and then you're more likely to do them. But the more you rehearse mentally, you will execute it better. You know, and that's also part of facing your fear. If you face it in your brain first, you actually could handle it better. And when I did that public speaking thing that I was very afraid of, when I tell you I was incredibly prepared, because I knew that would make me feel better. But I did visualize the room. I visualized people being happy and interested in what I was talking about. I visualized people at the end asking me questions. Like I actually created this, how amazing this could go despite me being really afraid, and then it makes it go a lot better. And you can do this with anything you're afraid of, or if you're afraid of going to the gym, visualize yourself walking into the gym, going up to the machine you know you're going to use, doing it well, and then leaving feeling really happy. You know, if you can think through that, it definitely will help reduce the fear in your head, or even make you laugh and be like, all right, I'm afraid of this, like that is so silly. But you have to visualize like that positive outcome, and that can really help you, you know, get through those things.
I remember you did that presentation on a Wednesday, I think, and I had put something on your calendar on that Tuesday, and you're like, I can't do that because I'm preparing for this thing. Which, I mean, obviously just in general to prepare, obviously for presentation is smart, but you had blocked off extra time because you were self-aware that this was a big deal for you, and not having adequate time prepped would just cause more anxiety about it. And so you just, it's not that you weren't still afraid of it, it's just that you put in a conscious effort to visualize it, overcome it, all of that. And sometimes that's all it takes.
For sure. And part of me doing that whole thing was because I knew it's a huge fear of mine, and I'm not in positions where I do public speaking. Like I got through that in school, which was so horrible, and that's where my fear comes from, is how terrible that was in 9th grade English class where everyone's laughing at you. Like that's literally where my core wounds are coming from. But I know that, and then I laugh because I'm like, I'm not gonna let 9th grade Kat hold me back. Like I'm literally not going to do that. I have to do things that are scary, and for me, part of doing that, it feels a lot better on the other side because you're doing hard things. So that's another way to approach your fears, is just be like, imagine if I get through this, how I will not be that afraid of it anymore. That's right. You know, every time Andrew uses the garbage disposal and his hand does not get ripped apart, might help you a little bit more.
That's right. That's right.
Okay, next one would be breaking it down into smaller steps. something that feels really, really big or huge is hard to address. So you just need to find the tiniest first step to do to address that fear. You know, I think for a lot of people, maybe starting your own business is something people want to do, but they're afraid of it failing or putting money in and not working out. Instead of, you know, developing a giant business plan before you've done anything, maybe do a little bit of like market research or make a Google spreadsheet of people you want to contact. Like don't make the business plan before you know, do smaller steps that are more important. And I think that also helps you just baby step, little fear at a time, or maybe contacting a whole bunch of people you don't know is actually really scary. It's vulnerable. So if you just do that. But a lot of people will avoid that and do the other things that don't directly involve the actual fear you're doing. And this, like, so many work scenarios can also be broken down into these smaller steps. But just keep in mind, forward momentum will help you keep building. So if you just gain a little bit of confidence, a little bit, you know, people who jump out of airplanes or go skydiving solo, they don't start doing that. They have to do a lot in order to get there. You know, so you just have to take these smaller steps, and then by the time you get to the big thing, then you might not even have much of a fear anymore because you've built so much confidence along the way.
That's right. When I was early thinking about quitting corporate, doing fitness full time, I was so overwhelmed. I mean, I still am, to be honest, but this is, you know, how we run our business is one step at a time. And I remember being like, okay, well, let me just like find a podcast or a book or something. And I found this book. It's called When to Jump by Mike Lewis, which is exactly what it sounds like, when to leave your job. And the very first chapter, it's written by a bunch of people who have done it. And the very first chapter was an owner of a gym in San Francisco where I was living at the time. And he had a super cool story. And so I ended up hitting him up, and we became really good friends. Over the years, he became like a mentor for me to how to work in fitness, like all because I read literally one chapter of this book. And I learned so much from him, which is super cool. And so it's just taking that one step. Like, maybe you don't see where it's going, but taking that one step will really help open up more doors and build more confidence. And so just really think about it as one step at a time, and don't get lost in projecting 2 years out and all the stuff you need to do.
100%. I love this one. This one I actually think is really fun. And this is, think about the worst possible thing that could happen. This is a little mind experiment, because your fear is probably not actually putting you in danger and creating any serious risk in your life. But a lot of us make it seem that way. So if I think about the worst possible thing that could have happened to me at that public speaking engagement, could be I maybe lost my train of thought for a moment, but then I know I could recover it. Or maybe no one has a question at the very end. Like, what could possibly be so bad, you know? Or maybe, like, you know, something embarrassing is on my face and I don't know about it. Like, I will survive all of these things. None of them are going to end my life or create anything that the next day I cannot handle. So in that sense, it's like the only thing that's afraid is my ego, or, you know, or feeling stupid. And all of those things are very easy to actually get over if you just realize what you're dealing with. You know, so always think, like, what is the worst possible outcome that could possibly happen? And then just laugh at how silly it is, because that's what's holding you back. And it's probably like nothing is all of that serious or on the line. And I see people sometimes doing things that are either, like, to me, maybe they're a little embarrassing, or like they're really putting themselves out there. And I'm like, hell yeah, this person clearly is just doing a thing. I love when I see that. I'm not judging people. They might feel judged, but I'm like, I respect someone who really, like, goes for it or tries a thing, especially something I would be afraid of. Like, I think it's really cool, and I admire that big time. But yeah, always think about, like, what risk are you actually in? What danger is there? If you're afraid of going to the gym, I can't think of what the worst possible outcome could be, other than, like,
someone else is maybe making fun of you, but you don't even know it. Like, they're not going to go point at you. It's not grade school, you know?
No one does that. Like, that's not how, like, adults behave. So yeah, I don't even know what that could be. Or maybe you're just a few steps behind in your group fitness class. You don't know what's going on. Like, no one cares. So, you know, always think about those things. Or if you're afraid of eating a certain type of food, or you're afraid of removing a certain type of food, like, how can I live without pizza? Like, what's the worst thing that's gonna happen? I don't know. Like, other than you have it once a month. Like, I don't know what you're going to inconvenience your family slightly because you need to order something else off the menu. Like, that's as bad as it gets. That's not so bad. Yeah. You know, like, always think about things like that.
Back to the gym, I can't say this enough. Most people have no idea what they're doing.
Yeah.
I mean, like every physical therapist I know, they're like, I can't go to a group fitness class because I just can't turn my brain off about how bad everyone is at all of the movements. And so I don't care if someone looks like they go there every day or they're in, I'm quoting, like in good shape. They're probably still messing up maybe as much as you, or just ask someone for help. I feel like if anything, people are like too willing to give unsolicited advice at the gym. So like if you go ask somebody, they'll be more than happy to help you. So don't worry about anyone making fun of you. Most people want you to succeed.
Yeah. Think about what is your ego telling you and what is your heart telling you. Like those are two different things. And usually a lot of us don't do what our heart is telling us to go do or pursue or whatever because our ego was like, oh, no, no, no. Yep. Don't do that. That's too risky and you're going to feel dumb and be embarrassed and all of this stuff where like none of that is real. And the people who can get over that tend to do very well in life or have fun. They enjoy themselves so much more. And they may look silly or ridiculous, but like they don't care. So we could all learn from those people.
Right. And, I talk about the corporate world a lot. It's a big challenge for most people who work with us are work in the corporate world and finding time to go to the gym and like taking, stepping back from your 40 plus hour a week job to go to the gym. It's like, well, what's the worst thing that can happen? I think getting fired is actually very unlikely. I would say it's like more likely you would have a sit down with your boss or someone would make a passive aggressive comment about how you're never like the worst thing is probably not getting fired. So you should just do it. And you'll see that pretty much nothing will happen. If anything, you'll get better at your job, which I've talked about. But let's just play that scenario out. Let's say you start going to the gym Monday, Wednesday, Friday. You start coming in at 9 instead of 8:30 or 9:30 or whatever. And you get fired. It's like, okay, so you had a job that you didn't like, that didn't let you work out. And now you got fired. You'll just get a different job that maybe you don't like also. Or maybe you like it better. So it's just like, yes, I am not promoting getting fired, but like it usually doesn't happen that quickly. I'd be shocked if you walked in one day and your boss is like, sit down. I see that you've been going to the gym. You're fired. It's like, I don't see that happening. And again, even if it did, now you're getting unemployment and severance. Now you're working out whenever you want. You find a better job that you hate less. And so, leaving your job is like, it's a world that I know really well. We've had layoffs in my family. We've had, all that kind of stuff. It's really not that bad. So like, don't use that as a reason to not work out. Like you're probably not going to get fired. And if you are, then like, again, to Kat's point, what is your real fear? Is it that you are inadequate at your job? And so you can't take an hour off? Well, then there's more to unpack there than just actually going to the gym at lunchtime.
Yeah, that's really good for you to mention because I think a lot of people pleasing is also based in a fear. And I've done a lot of work on myself to be better in this department. And the fear is making someone else uncomfortable because of something you want to do. That's why people eat desserts that they don't want because their aunt offers it to them. That's why people drink a whole bottle of wine with their partner when they don't want to at all. Like we do these things because you're afraid of making that person uncomfortable or making them say, the passive aggressive comment they're going to say, like you're afraid of these things. But if you're like, the worst thing that's going to happen is that my aunt makes a small comment that I didn't eat her dessert, like you will get through that. Your life will be no different, neither will hers. You will be fine. So like this is a good thing to think about for people-pleasing type of stuff because that's also rooted in fear. Like you are afraid of making someone uncomfortable at the expense of yourself. Which leads us to the last point, which is self-compassion. I think this is massive when it comes to fear. If you celebrate the attempt, not the outcome, that is such a nice place to be. For me, like I like to do things I'm afraid of because I feel good about doing them. I actually don't care about the end result at all. Like it's nice if it's a positive, but for me, I'm at a place in life where if I do something I know makes me uncomfortable, I'm really proud of myself afterwards. And I'm constantly reinforcing that to myself because that feels really good. It feels good to do scary things and get through it regardless of whatever happens. So just know if you have a fear of going to the gym, you don't need to go get the best workout of all time in. You just need to go in there, get through it and leave, and then you're going to feel a lot better because you tried. Who cares what the outcome was? And effort and people who do effort and feel good about their efforts also have more discipline. These are the people who do better in life and they're happier people and they usually are more successful at work because they understand that the process and like going through the hard thing is so much better than the outcome. Or especially people who don't have to put effort in to get a positive outcome don't tend to like the positive outcome nearly as much. So just know like getting over your fear of facing them itself is huge for character growth. It's really good for your mindset. It's just really good to make you a more grounded person that other people also probably want to be around more.
I love that. If you're not familiar with type 1 versus type 2 fun, that's a good read. Maybe we'll put that out in our Ultalife community. But type 1 fun is fun that's fun in the moment. And so, getting ice cream or something, something very comfort. And type 2 fun is something that feels very difficult during, but then you look back on it fondly after. And that goes to a lot of what you're saying, Kat, just feeling really accomplished. And I brought up scuba diving at the beginning of this. That was a big fear of mine, not only just in general, but also to get certified. They basically train you like a Navy SEAL and put you through the ringer of all the stuff that could go wrong. So then that worst case scenario actually isn't that bad. Like, for example, they turn the air off in your tank so you can feel what it feels like to breathe nothing. They take your mask off underwater so you can't see, like, all this stuff. And it's really not that bad. But I talk about this quite a bit, and I look back on it pretty fondly. Was I so miserable being in the freezing Pacific Ocean, like surrounded by kelp and looking for my mask underwater? Yeah, I did not enjoy that by any means, but it opened up a whole new world for me just in terms of confidence and also just now the ability to scuba dive for the rest of my life. So these things really can change you as a person, which I think is overlooked, just getting through that hump in a very short period.
Yeah, doing scary things builds self-trust. A lot of our fear is actually lack of self-trust. So the next time I am presented with a public speaking opportunity, I have what I just did, and I know I will get through it. It will still scare the shit out of me. It will still feel equally as uncomfortable, but I know I can do it because I've done it, and I believe that I am capable. And that's a massive place to lead from. It doesn't mean I'm any less afraid, but I know I can handle it. And that's a really nice place to be that everyone can get to if you just make it the choice, and you try. Put effort in, and again, just celebrate the attempt, not the outcome.
Love that. That's awesome. Anything else we missed, Kat? I can recap everything in a second.
I think that's pretty much it. There's, a million other ways you can face your fears, but I think these are some big ones. And, again, self-reflection and thinking about this, even working it through with other people, maybe like talking it out. This can also be very cathartic work to do on yourself.
Okay. I love that. I want to end with a quote, which I don't think we've ever done before.
Yay.
But one of my favorite books is Into the Wild, which the movie's but the book is really good, about the guy who went to live in Alaska by himself. And he has this quote in his journal that he wrote, and he says, "So many people live within unhappy circumstances, but will not take the initiative to change their situation because they're conditioned to a life of security. And all of this appears to give peace of mind, but there's actually nothing more dangerous to the adventurous spirit than someone with a secure future." Mm-hmm. The very basic reason for living is adventure, and real joy of life comes from our encounters with new experiences. I'm paraphrasing like a tiny bit, but I think when it comes to fear, a lot of it is just kind of maintaining status quo. And that is, whether you're talking about fitness, nutrition, or just life in general, that's the worst place to be. So, embrace that adventurous spirit. How you do that is what we've outlined in terms of conquering your fears. And so, yeah, I think that is a good ending point. Kat, anything else?
No, I love it. Go do something hard.
That's right. All right. Well, you can find more from the fearless Kat Bass on Instagram at Kat Bass Wellness. You can find me on Instagram at Andrew Hayes Life. Come share the fears that you've conquered. See everyone else's in our Ultalife community on WhatsApp. You can find the link in the show notes, and we'll see you for the next one, everybody.
Bye, guys.